All right, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Fauci madness that is gripping our country. Everything has been about our golden calf, Anthony Fauci. And I don't know about you, but I reached my limit on everything Fauci a while ago. He flip-flops on this, he flip-flops on that. I got it. You know, it's almost hearing about bias from the mainstream media. It's pretty much been filed in the Thanks, Captain Obvious file. So why are we still talking about Fauci again today? Well, because as usual, everyone is chasing the wrong story. And if any of this true, if any of it is true, this is the biggest story in the country. And it's the biggest story that has happened in a long time. Well, at least in the last few months. And I want you to know that it is right to question with boldness. It is not necessarily right to make charges of fact when you don't know. There's a lot of loose ends here that are, you start to pull on them, and I think it's going to fray everybody's story. But ask questions. Now, I want to make sure that everyone knows that we don't have the facts yet to accuse anyone, but there are questions that we should be able to ask and get answers to. And not only should we ask them, we should encourage people to ask them. But now you'll be deplatformed in cancel culture merely for having the audacity of curiosity. But damn the torpedoes, here we go. Let's talk about the real story surrounding Fauci. To do that, you need to go back to 2014. President Obama ordered a freeze on gain-of-function research after a series of lapses in a few biosafety labs. Now, that's where most people, I think, are lost. Gain-of-function research. I don't even know what that is. So go to the NIH and find out how the National Institute of Health says what they say gain of function is. GOF, gain of function. Research involving experimentation that aims or is expected to and or perhaps actually does increase the transmissibility or the virulence of pathogens. Such research, when conducted by responsible scientists, usually aims to improve understanding of diseases causing agents, their interaction with the human host, and or their potential to cause pandemics. Let me, because I'm a doctor, man. Let me break that down from Dr. BS to human speech. Gain of function is when a scientist takes a virus, they alter it, so that it can be passed on to humans. Then they the responsible ones, try to find a way to create a vaccine. So all they're really doing is trying to speed up evolution. They see something in an animal, and they're like, ooh, wow, that would be really bad if it jumped to humans. The responsible ones then take that, see how many steps it takes to make it pass to humans, if it will pass to humans, and then they try to find a cure, so they're ahead of the next pandemic. Sounds pretty responsible, unless you're doing it in the basement of somebody's house. Some of the lapses that they talked about in 2014 had to do with gain-of-function research on coronavirus. Now, that was 2014. All research was supposed to be halted. President Obama halted all of the research because some of the Chinese labs were really, really bad. Now, that didn't make Dr. Fauci too happy. In 2012, he wrote a paper arguing for the controversial research. He's a fan, and there are lots of reasons how responsible scientists and responsible doctors could do a lot of good with these measures. But they have to be watched closely, and they have to be done correctly, and they have to be kept in a bio-level 3 at least, or 4. The pause on gain-of-function research lasted until 2017. So from late 2014 until 2017, there should have been zero work done on gain-of-function with U.S. tax dollars. Zero. But just before the pause, A research grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services granted $3.7 million to EcoHealth Alliance. That began in June 2014 until June 30th, 2025. But wait, 2014, late 2014 until 2017, you weren't supposed to do any gain-of-function research with tax dollars. The description of the research in 2014, quote, understanding the risk of bat coronavirus emergence. Now, that sounds interesting. Wow. I wonder where some of that money ended up. Remember a few weeks ago when Rand Paul asked Dr. Fauci under oath, point blank, about the National Institute of Health's, his department, funding gain-of-function research in Wuhan. This is what he said.
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute
Do they fund
of
Dr.
Virology.
Beck?
We do not fund.
Do you fund Dr. Barrett's gain-of-function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain-of-function research.
Okay, well, he sounds pretty sure, and he's an expert, so what else is on TV? Well, if it were true, I would sound just like Dr. Fauci. I'd be like, absolutely not, we don't do it. But isn't this a little like, who cares how many people died? Who cares what started this? Remember that from Hillary Clinton? Sounds kind of like that. Now, is his response true? This is a study from 2015, several months after the pause. Its description is, quote, a SARS-like cluster of circulating bat coronaviruses shows potential for human emergence. Two of the authors, Dr. Barrett, who you just heard Senator Paul mention, and Dr. Shi. Dr. Shi is known as the Bat Lady, and she works at the Wuhan Institute. So the virus they started with was a SARS-like coronavirus that was present in bats in China. It wasn't infecting humans at the time. They proceeded to manipulate it so that it was then transmissible to humans, known as gain-of-function research. Who did that? Dr. Barrett and Dr. Shi. Where did they do it? At the Wuhan Institute. Now, that paper came out in 2015. Okay, so it's old news, 2015. Let's skip down to the acknowledgments for the research because they list the support and where it came from. Here it is. Grants from the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease. Isn't that what Fauci runs? And the National Institute of Aging in the U.S. National Institutes of Health, NIH. Also, the National Natural Science Foundation of China and U.S. aid funding from EcoHealth Alliance. Also, the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Disease of the NIH. NIH. Oh, that's Fauci's place, isn't it? They also felt there was a need for a little disclaimer. Experiments with the full-length and chimeric SHC-014 recombinant viruses were initiated and performed before the GOF research. What is GOF? What was that again? GOF, as we learned at the very beginning, is gain of function research. So, it was initiated and performed before the GOF research funding pause and have since been reviewed and approved for continued study by the NIH. So it appears in this study that had nothing to do with anything. There's no political reason to lie at all in 2015 that gain of function research was going on at Wuhan. And yes, Dr. Fauci, U.S. funding was involved because your division actually funded it. They admit that there was a pause on this kind of research in the United States, but it had been allowed to go on regardless. Now, wait a minute. That puts Dr. Fauci in contempt of Congress. He just lied under oath. And a pretty big lie. This directly contradicts the very forceful response that Dr. Fauci gave to Senator Paul, doesn't it? And if this research was so risky in biolabs in the U.S., why was it allowed to continue in China in a biolevel 2, which basically is your average dental office? Did President Obama know that this had been greenlit during his ordered moratorium on gain-of-function research? That would be bad. I don't believe he did. Maybe he did. Did Fauci at the NIH do this behind his back? Now, I'm not accusing anyone, but both questions need to be answered. This is the real story here. This could possibly be the modern version of the Iran-Contra affair. If you don't remember that, that's when the Pentagon wanted to secretly fund Iran, even though they were under an arms embargo. They couldn't do it. Congress said no. There was a ban on that. Well, they found a way to go around Congress and do it under the table. Gee, isn't that exactly what we have the NIH doing? NIH approving gain-of-function research in the middle of a different embargo through a Chinese doctor in Wuhan? Last week, it was reported that a Chinese military scientist filed a patent for a coronavirus vaccine before the virus was considered a global pandemic. Okay, well, I don't know much about this story other than the patent was filed, and now this guy is missing somehow. He seems to have either died or gone on a very long and dangerous camping trip. But is it surprising that someone would have patented some sort of cure for something that we now know Wuhan had been studying since 2014, and with U.S. NIH tax dollars? The answer is not common sense at this point. Is it? Or is it? It seems pretty common sense. Fauci and the media told us to trust the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese Communist Party. Our media and our government, Fauci in particular, said, trust the country that has 320 concentration camps for Uyghurs. Trust the country that we, Apple, Google, everybody else, is using slave labor from. Places where torture, sterilization, killings are commonplace every day. Do you know where the shortest lifespan is for any head of a company? It's in China. They all mysteriously disappear once in a while. This is a country that sides with Iran and North Korea, killed protesters and hid it from the world at Tiananmen Square. This is the same country that disappeared and killed the leaders of the pro-freedom movement in Hong Kong while our press was too busy covering up for China and covering up for Fauci. They're asking us to trust those guys. Okay, I'd say that we shouldn't do that. You know, maybe we shouldn't trust China. Trust but verify. Even rejecting basic common sense, the virus originated a mere stone's throw away in a lab where it had been studied for 7 years. The excuse of it being a conspiracy theory is so ridiculous, it's hard to wrap your brain around. Now, what I laid out should have been on the front page of the New York Times, as well as every other major print and cable news network in the country. That is the crime. That is the story. You can't trust the NIH. You can't trust the CDC. You can't trust anyone under oath unless this is cleared up. The media should be covering this 24/7 because these are easy questions they can ask. Should be even easier for Fauci to answer. We'll be waiting.